Bible's got you tied in knots. If you're burdened with religious thoughts, come grab a drink and join the choir. It's Heretic Happy Hour.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Heretic Happy Hour podcast. I am Keith Giles. I am one of your many co-hosts for the Heretic Happy Hour podcast, and we are in our final episode of the Conspiracy Theory series. So prepare yourself. Get ready, everybody. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Katie, Derek, and Matt. So say hi and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. It's Katie Valentine. I'm deep in my bunker, and I will admit that I've had a few conspiracy theory dreams as we've been doing this series. And I'm very happy that we're wrapping up so that my dream life can return to normal. But I've been thrilled to do the series.
And I am Derek Day. I'm the author of Deconstructing Religion, and I'm also the host of the Forward podcast. Silence. Anyway.
Silence. No, I thought and professional asshole though, right?
No. I am actually the nicest motherfucker in this group.
I like that better.
And I pity the fool who will argue with me.
And I'm Matthew DiStefano, and guys, I have an announcement. Is it okay if I give you all an announcement? And it's not that we have a hotline. We all know that. Jamal has told us.
Thank you, God.
Thank you. No, I have a real announcement today. I'm really excited. I want to tell everyone that is listening off the top that if you go to our website, we have a brand new bookstore.
Yeah, baby.
For all you people who like to read books, which should be everyone because we're all authors here. So if you go to our bookstore, what you're going to find at this bookstore is books from former Heretics of the Week. Head on over to heretichappyhour.com and check out that bookstore. It's a win-win. You're going to get some good prices over there. You're going to save some money, and you're going to help support the show. So I just was stoked about that, and I wanted to make sure I get that out there right off the top.
Sweet.
Shagadelic, baby. Yeah.
Matt, it took everything in me when you said you had an announcement not to sing the announcement songs from camp.
I don't know what that is.
It's a band camp?
You all didn't have the announcement song?
I didn't go to camp.
I didn't go to camp.
You
We
didn't
didn't
all
have
go
money.
to Christian camps?
Nope.
Hell
Thank
no.
God, no, I did not.
Well, there's some listeners out there are singing in their heads right now. Announcements. What a terrible way to die. What a terrible way to die. Terrible, horrible, something, terrible way to die. Announcements.
That's
and it gets
cultish.
very raucous.
Okay, that's enough. That sounds like one of Dwight Schrute's cautionary tales for children.
Yeah, I was having Jim Jones flashbacks there, man.
Listeners, if you've also sung the announcement songs, hit us up on Facebook so that we'll know and we can make a pillow for you.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
And guess what? We have a hotline. Hotline.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Man, you guys are on it. And so if you want to reach us, send us a text, send us a message. You can do so by exercising finger dexterity with that index finger and dialing 240-343-7379. Once again, it's 240-343-7379. And roll that beautiful voicemail footage.
Yeah, this is Galen Elliott. I'm a new listener from Springfield, Missouri. And I just wanted to make sure this was the right phone number. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast. Bye.
So that's it? You just making sure it was turned on?
Do we have a screener? Does anyone screen these things?
Apparently not.
I think that was a lovely voicemail. Thank you very much.
Galen, we appreciate
I appreciate
you,
it. Yes.
Yeah, it works.
You have our deepest sympathy, though, for being from Springfield, Missouri. But other than that,
Springfield, it's a hell of a town. Yeah.
Is that what The Simpsons is based off? Which Springfield is it?
I think
You're not supposed to know.
No, I thought
It's a conspiracy.
No, I thought he said it was in
perfect.
Washington. Isn't there one in Washington?
but from the middle of Springfield, from Mount Springfield, you could see 4 different states. So it has to be Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, or what's the fourth? I don't know.
Or it's just a cartoon.
I'm
Yeah.
bringing this full circle because one of the YouTubes I watched to prepare for how people think about conspiracy theories, there was a whole one based on Simpsons and predictions that they have made that have come true over the past
Man, my
30
kids
years.
are all into that.
That's
They're
exactly
in on it.
That one's good.
That is true. There are some crazy things they predicted.
But we have also a text.
Thanks for bringing it back home, Derek.
Back to the show.
Hey, stay on point, guys.
Oh, sorry.
Eyes. Focus, Danielson.
Squirrel.
Somebody say squirrel.
Yes.
So we have a text, and the text reads, so I hear you guys might have a hotline, but you might not actually check it. So fuck. Guess I'm screwed. What are your thoughts on the Ark in Kentucky and the whole ham thingy? That's spelled HAMM. Love the HHH, that stands for Heretic Happy Hour, in case you're wondering. Love y'all. Y'all rock.
Is that the same guy? I think he called us first, and then he sent us a text because he wasn't sure. I guess he thought we were going to answer the phone or something. Oh, that's funny. Well, so I guess the only question there really is about this that giant ark, right? That Ken Ham, I think that means. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love accidental humor, so I love it.
Yeah. So
I have no words for how I could not be persuaded to step foot on that ark. It would.
no.
I would have to recover from that for 6 months.
I would go. I think it would make if you had like a YouTube channel and you were always there. I think you could have some fun with it, unless you got kicked out.
Now, like if they had like a wash basin somewhere in there, I'd stick my finger in it like Robert De Niro Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. He sticks his finger in there and it starts boiling and all kinds of shit starts happening. That's what I would do. Stick my finger in the basin and watch everything just let's go to hell.
So we're saying for a humorous good time, if you're not going to be traumatized, visit the Ark. But I would be loath to give anyone money.
Yeah,
hey, Katie, I would pay money to see you go on that ark and sing that announcement song.
Oh, I could do that with my heart. That might make it worth it.
So, I mean, I think, I think about the ark in Kentucky about on the same level as I think about the flat Earth, thing. I would go there maybe just to get an ironic T-shirt or something, but I couldn't really do it with a straight face. That would just be so bizarre.
Okay, but the second part of the text, the whole ham thingy, I don't think we're going to have time to deconstruct the whole like racism around Ham, the child of Noah, but it might make a good topic for the future. So
no. I think he means Ken Ham.
What?
Ken Ham, yeah.
Ken Ham.
Ken Ham's the guy.
He built the ark.
Oh, this works on a couple of levels. I wasn't even getting the joke at the beginning.
See, I was thinking they're talking about Kentucky, so maybe it was canned ham.
I thought it was like Ham as the forerunner for racism, for racist theories.
Oh no!
See, listen, you gotta bone up on your creation, young Earth theology, Katie.
Apparently, I know.
Yeah, I know the code words.
This thing is rich, and I mean, it's not even just double entendre, man. I mean, it's just entendre rich.
I think I know what my video is going to be for this month for this conspiracy theories. I'll be talking about ham and theories around ham and how they're wrong.
Ham.
You're gonna go all ham on them.
Like apparently.
All right.
There you go. Well, thanks for texting and calling in. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, indeed.
I guess we're gonna have to move on to our next bit.
Let's go on to our heretic of the week and see what he has to say.
It's the heretic of the week.
My name is Blake, and I'm a heretic.
Hi, Blake.
It feels so good to get that off my chest.
Well, you're in good company here on the Heretic Happy Hour. So welcome, Blake. What we want to do, which is what we do with every guest, is kick it off by asking, why are you a heretic, and why would people consider you a heretic?
Yeah, I think it probably all started for me when I began listening to my heart, which we all know is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. And so I'm a heretic because I think... any theology that leads to an inordinate percentage of LGBTQ youth seriously contemplating suicide should maybe be reconsidered. I'm a heretic because don't really jive all that well anymore with penal substitutionary atonement. I think I'm a heretic probably because I think that a lot of systematic theology is, at least from a literary standpoint, just kind of bad storytelling. And probably because I haven't really decided yet, like, how I feel about any sort of religious identification with even the term Christian, or whether that's comfortable to use or not comfortable. So kind of in between land. And yeah, a lot of people have called me a heretic for that.
So technically, you might be an apostate then, right? Eh?
Yeah. That term fits. Maybe that's
Are you still a heretic if you don't identify as Christian? Or does that put you in heretic free land?
I don't know. So here's the thing: is I think that question hinges on like, can I form my identity in a vacuum, right? Or does my identity depend on the communities that I've been a part of and that I continue to be a part of, right? Because I guess like if my identity is purely like my religious identity is purely something that I do by myself, in my own space, then I guess I could just kind of withdraw from Christendom and do my own thing, and I guess I could just avoid the term heretic altogether. But I guess maybe I'm more prone to think that since I've been in a community for years and years and years with other people who would self-identify as Christian, then I'm thinking even if I feel uncomfortable with that label, I'm still in some way beholden to that community, and then therefore, yeah, still, I guess the term heretic is still something that I would need to wrestle with.
So if you don't identify as a Christian, but you refuse to call yourself a heretic, then that means you've gone full heretic. You've gone full heretic.
Yes, I've gone right
There
over
you
the
go.
edge. Yeah, the heretic cliff. Yep.
All right. You're in good company.
Well, you are in good company, and it's funny because this show actually started by us critiquing penal substitution atonement theory, and then when we brought Katie and Derek on the show, we kind of revisited that topic, and somewhat recently, had an episode on penal substitutionary atonement theory, and it's just so fascinating that you would mention that, and a lot of people do mention that it has nothing to do with historic Christianity or having to affirm a certain atonement theory. And yet, for many Christians, at least here in America, someone's orthodoxy or so-called orthodoxy hinges on how you talk about the atonement.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I'm also coming out of a Reformed tradition, and I would have called myself like 5 years ago like a 5-point Calvinist. And so, I mean, penal substitutionary atonement, it was very important, at least in my little corner of Reformed land. I mean, to such an extent, like, I mean, I heard plenty of pastors say that if you don't grasp that particular notion, then you kind of can't call yourself a Christian.
Yeah, it's kind of been conflated as the gospel, right? I mean, the atonement theory is the gospel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard that said many times.
Yeah. Well, you were only a 5-point Calvinist. I think Piper called himself a 7-point Calvinist.
7, yes.
A little less to
Yeah, double
deconstruct.
predestination. Yeah.
A few fewer, sharper edges.
Yeah, basically, for the Piper crowd, if you're fewer than 7 points, or definitely fewer than 5, then you're definitely a heretic.
Yes, no doubt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, going back to the Christian thing, I do want to clarify that while I don't necessarily feel like comfortable with that term, I also most of the time don't feel comfortable like not identifying at it as a Christian, if that makes any sense. Like there's this tension.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about who Jesus is to you now.
Yeah, Jesus is a person that I still hold a great amount of affection for. A person whose life I'm still incredibly interested in, and a person whose life I consider one in which I would want to like model my own life after, which like sounds the things that I just said would have been called heretical like 5 years ago in my own mind. But I mean, that's it essentially, like that's the furthest that I can feel that I can go right now. And I think part of that is just because of like where I'm at emotionally with just like things that have happened, like wounds that I still carry and am recovering from. And And so I think my willingness to go there is sort of like, almost like I have this like relationship with Jesus in which I felt really wounded. And so for like a while, I was like, I don't want to be close to you. And I think it's only now that I'm just like, okay, like I'm willing to sit down at a table and discuss. But I don't know if I trust you yet, sort of thing. If I can put it in like relational, emotional terms.
So
Yeah,
Jesus.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So you see. Are you still on the Jesus as Savior trip, or Jesus as paradigm? Jesus as what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jesus as Savior, like for me, I would be like, well, okay, so like, what is Jesus saving me from? Right. Like before it would be like this concept of sin, original sin, total depravity. Right. And now it's sort of like, maybe I think maybe I've drifted closer to what I understand right now to be more like quote unquote orthodox, like not as in like traditional, but as in like the Orthodox Church kind of ideas of like wellness and sickness. So in the sense that Jesus is making me well, maybe I lean into that. But I think just like I was saying, like I think I'm learning to accept the fact that I'm at a point where those intellectual exercises are happening for me in a place that's completely disconnected from my emotional experiences with them, because it's almost like I needed to draw these rigid boundaries around some deep pain. And so it's even hard to, I guess, determine, like what resonates with me, like what seems the most true outside of just like a purely intellectual exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and I love it that the image you brought, like you're willing now, you're willing to sit across the table from Jesus. And my concept anyway of God and of Jesus is like they're totally cool with that. Like God is definitely big enough
Yeah.
to have the capacity for us to be really angry and to experience the trauma. And I just hear you creating this container for you to explore all of the questions, which is great. Even when it sucks that we have to do it.
Yeah. So I teach ethics at a massage school that I used to go to, and when I teach ethics, I think about power differentials. So I'm going somewhere with this. Just trust me. But so as a massage therapist, if someone comes into my office and trusts me to take care of them, and they get down on my table, they're putting themselves in a vulnerable position. Any healthcare practitioner knows that there's a inherent power differential that exists in that treatment room. All right. Me, by right of carrying in the education and the experience and the knowledge, I'm at the top of that power differential, and my client is at the bottom. And my job is not to get rid of that power differential, but to handle that power differential in a way that puts my client's needs before my own. And I feel like with Christianity, I just feel like so many Christians are walking around the world as if they're at the top of these power differentials, and everyone else who, I don't know, is quote unquote a heretic or doesn't believe in penal substitutionary atonement or who is quote unquote lost is kind of at the bottom end of this power differential, and so I think even when I look at my own experiences, I honestly, for a long time, created this hierarchy within myself, in which kind of all of these ideas about spirituality and religion that I'd ever had in my life were kind of subjugated to this Christian framework, where kind of my Christian hat was on the top, and all of the other viewpoints and experiences that I've had were below that, or maybe kind of exiled. And so, what I guess coming back to where I feel like I'm at now is all of those different religious identities and expressions that I've been carrying within me, almost like inner children, in a sense, kind of these versions of me that believe different things that are suspended in motion within me are now all at the table together, and we're all consulting each other, and there's no hierarchy. So that's why I say, like, yes, like there's a Christian inside of me, but it doesn't seem to adequately describe the sum of my identity or experience.
So let me ask you this, Blake. This is
Yeah.
the tent peg question, or the line in the sand question. At what point did you basically have an awakening, or a conscious moment, where you said, okay, now this is where I'm turning this corner from where I was to where I'm going? What happened that what was the driver into this point of heresy, if you will?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, it's a long story. First of all, I'm gay. I'm a gay man. And I landed in Christianity when I was in my teens. My parents, like, not religious at all, antagonistic to Christianity. And so I think most of my time within Christianity, I was using it as a tool to, suppress or repress my sexuality, to build a life that I thought was the most righteous life to live before God. And so late in my 20s, I was leading small groups at my church. I was talking to, some of my best friends in that church who were pastors and elders about sexuality. And I wouldn't have called myself affirming. I, had a stint in conversion therapy. So I was kind of this model sexual minority within my church. I've always been like relatively straight passing, which just means, like I could easily pass for a straight dude, like most days of the week. And I think maybe as a result of that, my pastors encouraged me to marry a woman, because I told them that I was really depressed and didn't really know how to reconcile my sexuality with this version of Reformed theology. And so I did, and that was mostly because, I deeply did believe that I couldn't trust my own experiences. Like the heart is deceitful above all things. And so it was like, well, if I can't trust that, the only thing I can do is trust these outside voices. And so that's kind of what I did. I would take those voices kind of wholesale. And anyway, eventually, that led me to some pretty dark places where I realized that that framework it wasn't sustainable, and that the fruit that it was producing was all bad, even though I was promised that, even if there wasn't like, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, the normal versions of Christian fruit, that, at least I would have more of Jesus if I were to kind of listen to my pastors and live a heterosexual Christian married life. But I just got to the point where I was like, there's no Jesus here either. There's no good fruit, and there's no Jesus here. And that's when things got really dark. And so that prompted me to reevaluate things emotionally. And I mean, there's a whole process that happened intellectually as well. I mean, I'm a writer, and I love to write fiction. And I began realizing through kind of critiques of my own writing being very plot heavy and having little character development, that I realized when I was kind of the same problems that I was having in my own writing, I was having in my own like hermeneutic of scripture, where, like every story in the Bible is supposed to be kind of run through this lens of Jesus, as if every other story in the Bible is a Jesus story. And I just realized that's actually like really plot heavy, like hermeneutic. It's not like there's no character development. It's like, from a literary standpoint, like it's not good storytelling. And so that's when I was like, oh, like what if systematic theology isn't working for me? What if inerrancy is something that I need to reconsider? And to be honest, I feel like, once inerrancy came under fire for me, it was like that was kind of the linchpin. It was like all of a sudden I had to reconsider everything. So I say all that to say, like, it was kind of simultaneously this intellectual and emotional catastrophe, for lack of a better word.
I got to tell you something. You said something here that really resonated with me, and I'm gonna you guys will hear this said again. Is this plot heavy hermeneutic? That basically you have to find Jesus woven into everything. And when I was taught, my journey into theology, that was the narrative. Basically that Jesus was in everything. But if you look at it if you take away inerrancy, now it's okay. Jesus really isn't hiding around every corner. He's not peeking out.
The voyeur Jesus.
Exactly. Thank you, Katie. Boy, I tell you,
I like that.
I try my best.
Yeah, that one's going to be repeated too. But yeah, go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry. It's just.
No, that's exactly it. I love that idea of voyeur Jesus, peeking around the corner, every story that I'm supposed to approach within Scripture is kind of laid over top of the Jesus story, and there's no other way to interpret that. And honestly, as a person who is prone to loving plot heavy writing myself, I think that was one of the reasons that drew me into Reformed theology, because I was like, man, this feels really cohesive. This feels like foreshadowing all over the place. This feels like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, like the more that I actually got into the details is when that started falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, one of the images that came to me as you were describing your experience is, when we have a house, like a house of cards almost, and when you pull out one, they all come tumbling down. And what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're now building your house on a house of rock, to use the parable. A house of rock instead of built on a foundation of rock instead of a foundation of sand. And I'm curious, what has opened up for you now that's been life-giving, even in the middle of all the wrestling and all the questions? And I'm thinking especially around, sexual orientation. Oh my gosh, it's such a huge identity and a core being of who we are. And to affirm that as part of our spirituality. And I'm kind of curious where you are in that part of your journey, and what gifts maybe have come to you as a result.
Yeah. Gosh.
And I don't want to, I don't want to peg hole you into only talking about sexuality, but that's, it sounds like a huge part of your journey too.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny because I have a boyfriend now. I have a partner, and we've been together about a year. And it's so interesting that so much of the relationship advice that I got while in that Reformed community was really good relationship advice. Like the advice to wake up every morning and choose my partner, right? Like that I actually know what that feels like now, that whereas in a different context, in my previous context, like in a context where I was trying to carry out that advice in a context that wasn't suitable for me. It was reparative therapy, like in one context it's life-giving, and in another context it's death bringing. Sort of like, if you would think of a pine tree, like you can put a pine tree on a beach and like do all of the things you're supposed to do to care for a pine tree, but that pine tree is still not going to grow, right? There, like the treatment that you would normally give the pine tree is just going to bring death for that pine tree if it's planted in the wrong context. So on this side, it's like, at first I thought I had to just walk away from that house of cards, right? Just like there are no cards in this deck that are worth anything. And now it's like, no, like there are some that are there's some really there's some golden nuggets in there, that are worth bringing along. And I think the beauty of it is I didn't have permission, or I didn't give myself permission before to actually look through the deck. I had to either accept the whole thing or reject the whole thing. So one of the joys has been getting to the bottom of, okay, like maybe I do get to decide what I believe. Like maybe I do get to piece things together, or at least get to explore, and give myself permission to ask tough questions and accept that maybe I don't arrive at a succinct or tidy answer.
And I think that that's actually cool because at the end of the day, our faith is a personal thing, and we have to own what we believe. And I think the part of the problem with religion in general is that instead of owning what we believe, we try to lease what someone else believes and appropriate it as our own.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Alan Watts, I believe it said, religion's the only thing that will steal your watch from you and try to sell it back to you. I thought that was a pretty apt analogy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Politics too, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Two sides of the same coin.
So returning back to the theme of voyeurism, how can people find you, and how can they be voyeurs for you? Tell us what you got going on, so people will know about your music and how to be in touch.
Yeah. Okay. So voyeurism. So my OnlyFans is no, I'm just kidding. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram. It's just Blake A. Mundell. My website for my new project is humanbecoming.net. That's the name of the project. And then my artist name is Courier. So you can search that on whatever music service you listen to. And the website for that is therealcourier.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I have listened to a couple of your songs, and I love them. They were great. So I would encourage our listeners to definitely go check that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm excited. And just as a final 30-second note, how are your parents thinking about your spiritual journey now, since you were annoying them since they were when you were in high school?
Yeah. They are some of the most supportive people in the world. And I'm sad that my experiences in conversion therapy and Christianity kind of taught me that they were harm to me, when in fact they're some of the most supportive, beautiful people in my life. So I'm kind of rekindling a new relationship with them that I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it that it
awesome.
comes around full circle like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Blake, for spending a half an hour with us. Appreciate it a lot, man.
Yeah. It's been great.
You.
Yeah,
I love talking to y'all. Thank you.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cheers.
Wow, that was awesome. That was a great interview. Sorry guys, I guess I was asleep during that whole interview. Maybe my mic was muted or something.
We missed your voice, but it was really fun to talk to Blake and hear all of his story.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, great interview, Blake. This is good talking to you, and just the whole thing about how you went from, I guess, like near fundamentalist Christianity to discovering your sexuality and just being able to break free from religious strongholds.
That's always the goal, right?
Yep,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here we are in the final. We got to move on. We got to get to our topic here in the final.
We're in the finals.
The finals. This is game 7. And this is the one I'm actually excited about because I think I'm finally going to get on the board for affirming a conspiracy.
Really?
Nice.
From downtown.
Listeners, if you're wondering right now who is the most likely among the 4 of us to believe in conspiracy theories, you need to get that settled in your mind, because there's going to be a tally at the end of the episode.
Oh, will you? Oh, good. You'll give us a total count?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Thank
you.
Pay attention.
I can't wait to hear. Although I think I know the answer already, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we doing?
What do we want to start? Do we want to start with JFK?
The mother of all conspiracy theories. I think this is the one that really launched the whole thing. JF Mother F and K.
John fucking Kennedy.
We can bring this back to last week's just to start us, because one of the theories was that JFK Jr. didn't really die. He's coming back like King Arthur.
Boy, I'm glad we've dealt with that already.
That family legacy.
Pizzagate.
That's some
bullshit, but
total bullshit.
I think I'm actually I don't believe the official story of JFK, and it's because it's all to me it sounds crazy.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't even match the evidence. This is a reason why I think this theory has persisted so long, is that we had this sort of official story, but then when you go and look at any of the evidence, it's even some of the basic evidence, almost none of it makes any sense.
All right. So tell me, what's the official story, and who's the official story by, and then what's the conspiracy theory?
Well, I mean, the official story is that Oswald acted alone up in the book depository. There were 3 shots. The first one missed. The second one is the magic bullet. It it goes through Kennedy. It hits Governor Connolly.
Yep.
But it takes twists and turns and goes up and down, and then it's there resting on the stretcher. It's not even like, it's almost perfect. And then the third shot is the fatal shot. And then was it a couple days later Jack Ruby killed Oswald?
Yeah.
And then you've got the Warren Commission. They're the ones who are going to investigate it. They determined that that's the official story, that one lone gunman up from the book depository whacked Kennedy.
Yeah.
Now let me say something from someone who's actually witnessed something like that in real life. There's this thing called ballistics.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of ballistics, when you look at the entry wound from a gunshot is always cleaner than the exit wound.
Exactly.
And so what happened, the shot that actually killed Kennedy was a shot that had to have hit him from the front, because the exit wound came out of the back, and a piece of his head went on the back of the car.
That's right.
And it was something that apparently was so shocking that Jackie Kennedy jumped out of her seat to try to retrieve that piece of his head.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Now, if you're looking at Oswald and from the book depository, that is a shot from the rear.
Right.
That's the only way that he's making that shot. And my brother-in-law, fun fact, works in the book depository building.
No,
so I've actually been there. Yeah. So
Did he
you could see right where the parade route passed. And in order, first of all, the other thing is that Oswald was shooting with a bolt action rifle.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way that he could have fired off 3 shots.
Not that quick.
Not that quick.
Nope.
It's impossible.
Nope.
And there have been people, I think Richard Marchenko, the founder of the Navy SEALs, that he actually attempted it. And Marchenko's a badass dude. And he couldn't do it.
Hmm.
No shooter has ever accomplished that. Nobody.
Right. Yeah, there's just, again, and thank you guys for going like rapid fire down the list, because those are the major parts of the conspiracy. There's also, I mean, because the lone gunman theory is ludicrous. And here's the thing about I guess the part of what makes the conspiracy seem to me so conspiratorial is it doesn't make any sense that our own government would not even say that it's possible that there could have been other gunmen, like to just insist, no, there was only one gunman and it was Oswald. And to not say, well, yeah, it kind of, there are reasons to think that maybe there were other gunmen, on the grassy knoll or whatever, because of this kind of evidence. But again, it's the insistence that, nope, absolutely not. There is only one. And so, you know what I mean? Like their insistence on that is sort of suspicious. Like,
there
why
are 3
would you do
groups
that?
of folks that had some skin in the game, that it would make sense if you were looking for people that potential culprits. One is Castro. That's been one that's floated, that he pissed off about the pay of pigs. The second one is the mafia, that they were upset about how Marilyn Monroe was treated by the Kennedy brothers, and Joe DiMaggio, who was Marilyn's ex-husband and who actually was the one who handled all of her arrangements when she died, that he had connections with the mob and that they took him out. And then the last one is the most over the top, and that's that the CIA did it, and that there was some concern about the Bay of Pigs again, that that the CIA was upset because Kennedy had actually spoken on breaking up the American intelligence agencies. So those are the three culprits that I know of. Now, if you guys know of any others, I'd surely love to hear it, but that's what I know.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to kind of tip my hand a little bit here because if you're going to call the CIA theory the most over the top one, then I just kind of have to admit that I kind of think the CIA one is the one I tend to believe, because it feels to me, again, like our own government is complicit in sort of covering some things up, and not that, like, again, I don't understand why we would be complicit in covering some things up, like continuing even to this day to keep certain files sealed. Like, so in other words, if it was the mafia, why would you seal that? Who's going to get upset about, oh no, it was the mafia, or, oh no, it was Castro? Like, we would be like, well, yeah, those guys are enemies. They're criminals, whatever. But to me, it feels like one of the reasons you would keep it sealed is that it would.
Why you couldn't go after either one of those? You couldn't go after Castro because of the fiasco at the Bay of Pigs, and you already just stared down Khrushchev and the Russians.
But this
is the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, but this is 2020, is what I'm saying. Is that we still haven't unsealed these documents, and so
that makes sense.
Yeah, that.
But you know what though? To be honest, Keith, I'm really on board with you on this one.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
That's where I hang my head.
Yeah.
But it's the most outrageous of the three theories.
All right. So I've got a question. Is it a conspiracy theory if we say, or if anyone says, Oswald didn't act alone? Is that in and of itself just like going up against the Warren Commission? Does that make it a conspiracy theory?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because someone would have had to conspire to do it.
Yes.
And Oswald would have had to been the fall guy.
And to cover it up. I mean, the fact that, again, that it really does look like there was a concerted effort to create a story that flew in the face of the actual evidence, and people sticking to that story, in spite of the fact that the evidence was pointing another direction. So, yeah, that sure feels like a conspiracy to me.
And here's another fun fact. When John Connolly died, his wife conveniently said that there would be no autopsy, and that when he was buried, his grave was sealed with concrete.
Holy moly.
True fact.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because allegedly there was a bullet that remained lodged in Connolly's body until the day he died.
That's right. And what if it wasn't the same type and caliber as the rifle that was by Oswald?
I feel like my field trip to the grassy knoll in high school was wasted. If I had known then, I needed to pay more attention.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and it's one that persists. And honestly, I'm going to say, I don't know that we will ever know the full truth about that.
But it's one that persists, unlike all the other conspiracies, because so many conspiracies, the facts and the evidence are not on the side of conspiracies. But on this one, it's I'm not an expert, but from what I understand, bullets don't change direction and go this way and that way. and if they do, they ricochet off things. They're not pristine. And as far as I know, there's even audio that has been dissected.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more than 3 shots from what I understand. And this is just I'm not saying who did it, but when I hear something, it sounds to me like there's more than 3 shots.
Oh yeah.
And like Derek,
beside the Zapruder film too, by the way.
That's exactly,
there is.
Yes.
And like Derek said, when someone gets shot in the back of the head, it doesn't shoot out the back.
Yep. Ballistics, bitches.
Hashtag ballistic bitches.
It sounds. So I'm also. I mean, if saying that Oswald didn't act alone, there wasn't a lone gunman, makes me a proponent of the conspiracy theory. I'm there too. I'm curious. So I heard CIA for Keith.
Yep.
And Derek.
Yep.
And what about you, Matt? Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory to lean into around it?
Well, I'll let me just clarify. There's no such thing as the mafia. There's crime bosses and there's crime families. So
Spoken like
I
a
don't.
true Italian.
Yeah. I mean, I have
Correct.
Sicilian heritage, so I'm going to clarify that one. I don't know. I don't know if I buy into that one. If it's just one family, if families are working together, no clue. Yeah, I guess I've always kind of leaned toward if anyone did it, it'd probably be the CIA. I've heard the Castro one. I don't know of any others. I'm sure there are some, but those are the main three. And if I had to guess, and that's all it would be as a guess, is I'd say the CIA would know something about it.
And another fun fact that it is said that Robert Kennedy, because he was the attorney general at the time, that he had some privileged knowledge of what happened, but he couldn't say it because he was, still at the behest of the executive branch of the government. But had he been elected president, that he could have opened this whole thing back up.
Yep.
And there's some speculation that he was killed to keep him silent.
Yeah.
So how do you guys like that?
Yeah.
Bonus.
Yeah, that is, because, there's not as much of a conspiracy maybe around Robert, but it is odd, that both of them ended up dead.
And there's a lot of evidence that says that Sirhan couldn't have been the shooter. That's another thing, but another show.
There you go. That's just
another show for another time.
Exactly.
So I've got my handy chart in front of me, and it looks like a yes. Or
I guess, none of us believe that Oswald was the lone gunman.
Right.
I guess.
All right.
Well, now, can we just say something else? I know we're pretty much done with this, but, the other part of it, though, is that Oswald maintained that he was absolutely innocent and he doesn't even understand why they arrested him. So that's another part of the theory, is that Oswald didn't kill anybody, that he was a fall guy. He's someone that they arrested, and they had a backstory on him to make him look guilty. And this is why Jack Ruby shot him. So that
Jack
nothing
Ruby was an FBI informant and a CIA operative.
Exactly right. So that maybe not only was Oswald not the only shooter, maybe he wasn't a shooter at all. Just to throw in that, just another something to play with.
That in there.
Just play with that.
Cue Rod Serling.
Well, and I'll add one last thing. This is one of those ones where I don't think it would take too many people. I mean, it's not to be in on it. Like, it's not like Flat Earth where you need hundreds of thousands or millions of people in on it.
Right.
I think you could probably pull off an assassination. I mean, we've been assassinating motherfuckers forever.
Of course.
So who's to say we couldn't pull off assassinating, a president? And when I say we, I just mean people conspiring. I'm not saying who.
The United States of America.
Well, we've done our shenanigans in the world. I will say that.
That's exactly right.
Sometimes when I do think, sorry to bring it back to metaphysics, but when I do think about like reincarnation metaphysics, I'm like, oh my God, all these people are going to have so much shit to work out next time around. All of them. There's so much work to undo. Karma.
Oh, yes.
Wait a minute. I think that was the first time Katie cussed on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, mile marker.
All right. Making history.
Making history. All right. So we're all in agreement there. And let's move on to the next one. This is also a fun one. 9/11. 9/11 was an inside job, as the saying goes.
Fun fact. I was in the World Trade Center 1 week before 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
That's
1 week.
Wow.
I was working there.
Can you imagine, dude? Like, what if you could have been there?
I could have been there.
And you would not be on this show right now.
Who says that I am?
Oh, there you go. Well,
I've never met Derek in person. So
no, again, that's true. It could be a bot.
Derek's a Russian bot.
Damn.
I'm not gonna accuse you, Derek, but you weren't planting charges, were you? On those columns.
Let's see, what were you doing there? That's right.
There's this thing about controlled demolition.
Yeah.
And before I get to the controlled demolition, that when they designed the World Trade Center, this was talked about in the aftermath, that they talked to one of the structural engineers who participated in the design and engineering of the buildings, because no one had ever built anything that tall before.
Yeah, it's massive.
So there was a lot of cutting edge engineering, and also because of the relative positions of JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark Airport, that they had to consider the possibility of a plane striking the building. And so at that time, the biggest airplane available was the Boeing 707. which was bigger than either the 757 or 767 that were involved in any of the hijackings, and it carried more fuel, and it carried a different type of fuel that was even more volatile. And so part of their engineering analysis, the structural analysis, was, would the building survive a plane crash? And the answer was an emphatic yes. They were designed to withstand a plane strike from something bigger and badder than what actually hit it.
Imagine that. You know what? You were the first person who has ever told me that. Derek, I've never heard that. But thank you for that background information. Because, yeah, that's good. I mean, here's the other thing crazy about 9/11 is there were 2 planes that struck 2 buildings, but 3 buildings fell in pancake fashion. There are, as far as I know, there are no examples of tall buildings sort of naturally pancaking like that. That's a controlled demolition. You can't.
Here's one thing. Let me throw this out here, because a few years earlier, terrorists had attacked the World Trade Center before.
True.
And they had set off a bomb in the parking garage. Now, there is some structural engineering train of thought or line of thinking that suggests that perhaps the structure beneath was damaged, and that the demolition of the Twin Towers caused a chain reaction that caused Building 7 to fall. But here's the thing, and I'm going to throw this out here. If you guys go back and look at the footage, you'll see numerous flashes.
Yes.
In different areas. And so if you go back and look at some of the controlled demolition, some of the famous controlled demolition, like in Las Vegas, for example, you'll see the same sort of flashes in the building.
Yep.
So the question is if the engineers say that a plane crashing into the building couldn't do it, I don't know. Maybe that there were terrorist cells ahead of time that went in and planted shaped charges in the building, and that when the plane crashed into the tower, that in order to complete the job, they set off the controlled demolition.
Yeah, there had to be, one way or the other, there's a controlled demolition. I mean, what brought down those buildings, all 3 buildings, because Building 7 is the one that was not hit by a plane, but still went down pancake style, like a controlled demolition. And so it wasn't any planes that brought down those buildings. You
think about this too, that the guys who the first terrorist act that exploded in the truck in the garage, their vision was to see the towers toppling into the East River. That was their wet dream, right? It wasn't a pancake demolition. That isn't what they want. They wanted it to fall like an oak,
like a tree. Yep.
Exactly.
Are you talking about the 8 years before 2001?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I don't know how buildings are supposed to fall down anyway, controlled or not. And I'm not that impressed by an engineer saying that a plane can't take it down, because they said the Titanic couldn't sink also. But I guess that's another conspiracy as well.
That was a different engineer, by the way.
Well, yeah. I understand. I understand that, Keith.
And it was earlier engineering.
Much older.
Maybe he was reincarnated.
And one of them is a boat.
I understand. Point being, is just because an engineer says it doesn't make it necessarily true.
Okay, but you know what? There was a study done, and I just saw this report published recently, maybe even this past year. There was like an independent study of structural engineers who looked at the available evidence for the Twin Towers, and they concluded that it was a controlled demolition.
Okay, so we're talking about September 11th, 2001. I just keep on remembering my experience that day and watching TV. And it's one of those things where I saw the replay footage so much that day. I don't even know if I saw the second tower fall live or later on that day. You know, the whole day is just like this miasma of
a blur,
kind of confusion, right? To me, I'm sure people who are old enough to remember it might have some similar experiences. And so if the towers didn't, the conspiracy theory is that the planes didn't take the towers in Building 7 down. It was something else, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So that something else could be a controlled demolition.
Yes.
Any other theories? Wait, and if it was a controlled demolition, by whom?
Well, there you go. That's a good question because there's multiple theories on that. One of them is that we knew about it, similar to Pearl Harbor. We knew it was in the plannings, and we did not do anything to stop it.
So it's like 7 minutes of silence.
Yes. So
Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, we knew it was going to happen, but we didn't stop it because we saw that it would be a fuel to get us into a war that we desperately wanted to get into in Iraq, which of course the war in Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, but it was seen as sort of a convenience to sort of get people riled up and, rah, rah, USA, let's go to war. So that's one theory that we knew about it and did nothing. The one theory that, again, the CIA did it. And by the way, there was and Derek, I'm sure you know about this, right? There was a published CIA strategy they were going to fly planes into, I think in Florida, right? And blame it on Cubans.
Yep.
So we could start a war, right, with Cuba and the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the CIA had already thought of almost the exact same plan years earlier. And that has since come out. So we know that this is not something the CIA had never entertained before, to take planes, take our own planes, crash them into our own buildings ourselves, but blame it on foreign powers so that we could go to war with them. That is something the CIA has.
Another thing too is that they've done very finite analysis on the footage of the planes flying in, and the planes are strangely devoid of any livery.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, some of the people say too that they called them military planes because they said there were no markings. There were no markings.
No markings, no windows.
So
there's some conspiracies that the planes didn't even exist.
Yes, I've heard that too. That they were actually holograms.
Yeah.
They were they were never actually real planes.
That part. If that meant that's a technological stretch. I mean, based on what I know, I mean, to be able to project something like that into the air, that's a huge lift there.
Yeah,
that's a huge lift.
We would have to have
the LCD projector.
I doubt. My personal opinion is that I doubt that they were actually commercial. And what bolsters that theory for me is the plane that was allegedly shot down in Pennsylvania. There was no wreckage recovered, no remains recovered, none of that. Now, mind you, we shot down a plane, an Iranian airliner, a few years prior to that. USS Vincennes was shot down an Iranian airliner, and there was debris and bodies all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Now, so if we don't have a weapon that is so thorough that it would just absolutely vaporize a jet plane, that's number one.
Yeah.
And then the Pentagon. When I look at the footage of the gate where that took the footage of what was supposed to be the plane flying into the side of the Pentagon, that looked like a missile.
Yes, a few feet off the ground.
Yeah,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And again, no bodies, no. Somebody threw a turbine in there, but some engineer had pointed out that this was like an old Pratt and Whitney turbine. That existed in old Air Force tankers, that it wasn't used in commercial engines.
Yeah, and by the way, so thank you for mentioning the engines, because there's also footage I've seen, video footage from 9/11 of there's like a jet engine kind of like on the sidewalk in the debris and stuff, and people have pointed out it does not match it's too small. It is more like a military transport size one. It doesn't match like commercial jet airliner engines. It is literally like someone drove up and dropped it on the sidewalk and drove away and left it there, because it doesn't. That's sort of like, what is that doing there? Like it doesn't match any of the engines being used by commercial aircraft.
Okay,
yeah, and here's the thing about that too, is that that the newer jet engines from both Rolls-Royce and General Electric, they have a high survivability factor. I mean, it's like, even if a missile blew into it, they are so robust that there would be a significant amount of the engine remaining.
Yes.
So what I'm curious about this, and I know nothing about demolition, building structure, markings on planes, engines, like none of that. But what would you make then of the phone calls we have from United 93? Is that it? From people, from people who were
at the risk of being like the guy, what is it, Alex Jones, that's railed against the Sandy Hook thing. I don't want to appear to be insensitive. to the families that lost loved ones. I don't want to do that. However, there were some inconsistencies about the phone calls. Now, I don't know how you shape or frame that, but it basically the way it was framed is people said that this is not something my father, brother, wife, daughter would say.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So here's the other thing about that too. Even today, now we have better technology today, cell phone technology today than existed back then. You can't even make a cell phone call at 30,000 feet because the cell phone towers are beneath you and you cannot make a connection. So
They were nowhere near 30,000 feet.
right,
I would
but
think,
I'm
right?
saying usually it's really difficult to get a cell phone to connect from height. Certainly back then, that wasn't something that was, and maybe if you were getting ready to land or something. But if you were at cruising altitude, you probably couldn't make a phone call.
I don't know. The thing that's sketchy to me is, and I'm not saying I believe in the conspiracy, but the thing that's sketchy to me is that we found out pretty early on through some IDs in the rubble that they were from Afghanistan, right?
Yes. So of course,
And then we went to and then we went to war with Iraq.
Of course.
And that shit doesn't make sense to me. So
But
I'm not
wait,
saying
you found IDs that are made of something that's pretty volatile.
Yeah, I know that's sketchy.
And it made it through the same heat that melted steel girders. Yes.
I know that's sketchy. That's sketchy as fuck.
You find IDs, but you don't find a shred of luggage.
Right.
Help me out.
And did they find passports from anybody else on the plane, or only specifically the terrorists?
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm more along the lines of we knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And let it happen, and then painted the whole picture so that we can go in, find these weapons of mass destruction which don't exist, and go to war with Iraq.
So I definitely agree. We United States used the event, whether there was foreknowledge or not, to invade Iraq for non-existence weapons of mass destruction. We're not above using an opportunity, right?
No.
Twisting it to our advantage, to our seemingly advantage.
We're not even above creating an opportunity.
Or creating an opportunity, right? So I believe all of that is possible. I'm just kind of taking it all in, and for me, it is super hard for me to even speak clinically about the day, about the events and the massive changes that have happened in the world since then, mostly not for the better, and the racist things that have happened across the world since then.
Yeah.
People have been tortured, and it's even hard for me. It's even hard for me to engage a little bit in the conspiracy theory because the ramifications have just been so huge, literally world altering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm hearing though, right, is that the conspiracy theory is that this is either not stopped, premeditated, or caused by the U.S. government.
Yes.
Well, I think the big conspiracy is that the U.S. government is the director of it all. I don't think it's too much of a conspiracy to say we used it to our advantage to roll out a war in the Middle East with a country that really had nothing to do with it. Right. Something like the Patriot Act. We rolled out these new laws because of that, and using this as a justification. That's not really conspiracy. That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I think the conspiracy is that we knew and were orchestrating part of it, or at least all of it.
Well, I mean, if something like this is fodder to usher in all of those things, because nobody was talking about the Patriot Act, and nobody was talking about facial recognition, and nobody was talking about advanced airport security. These things didn't exist.
Yeah.
So if there was some incentive to invoke or institute or implement these things, this was a good segue to that.
Right.
And it rallies people, and people become nationalistic.
Yep. Oh yeah. There's a lot of good reasons to either do it or to let it happen. Because it also led to the surveillance state that we're in right now. Because in the name of protecting it, well, if you've done nothing wrong, you shouldn't. What's the big deal if we're listening to your cell phone conversations or tracking your movements? Only criminals need to be worried about that.
Are you telling me that this has led to 5G?
No.
Well,
I don't think 5G
record,
has anything to do with that.
For the record, as someone who is a million-mile air traveler, I hate having to take my fucking shoes off.
Yeah, it
Do
is
you
kind
remember
of
the
stupid.
days when you can meet someone at the gate?
Those are that was beautiful. Yeah, I was standing with
It
a
was.
sign and
So in some senses, it was nice to be able to go and do that. In some senses, I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting out of my car.
right. I'll pick you up at the sidewalk.
I'll pick you up.
Heck, remember when you could go to the airport and have dinner? There used to be nice
Yeah.
restaurants and
Oh, yeah.
hotels in the airport. You can't do that now.
Yeah. I lived in the Chicago land on 9/11. I lived there just about a year, and I used to go to O'Hare all the time, and it was halfway between where I lived and where I worked, and meet people and go to the gate. And traveling through O'Hare has always been a nightmare. It was definitely more of a nightmare after 9/11. So I'm listening. I'll form an opinion by the time I put it on the piece of paper. It's all a little. It's mammoth to even comprehend. Such a pivotal moment in history, and we don't yet. I think where I'm going with this one is we don't yet know the full rollout of effects of 9/11. We know 19 years of effects, but there's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
And let me throw one more fun fact at you guys, because you'll love this. That in the complex of the World Trade Center, that the nominal employment or the nominal population of the World Trade Center on any given workday was about 120,000 people.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
of that 120,000, 3,000 died.
Yes, there were a lot of people that surprisingly did not show up for work that day.
Yeah, kind of like the Edward Murrow building in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw that out there too.
Yeah, and then
one theory we haven't thrown out at all, this whole conspiracy theories, could be responsible for any of the 16 that we've talked about, is maybe the Illuminati did it.
Yeah.
And there's such a special boogeyman for all conspiracy theories. We will be talking about them in the bonus material for patrons.
Bonus round!
Well, what do you mean by bonus, Katie? How are people going to get a hold of that?
How would anybody listen to that?
I'll say it once here, just for the record. So we're transparent. There's no conspiracy theory. But yeah, for all of you who are on Patreon and patrons, we love you so much. We will be talking about the Illuminati and who they are and what control they have of us right now in the bonus material. And all patrons have access to that. So we always give a little bonus round in every episode.
Yes. But before we do all that, I think we need a drum roll to see what our final tally is.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, before the drum roll, I need everyone's yes or no on 9/11.
Oh, shit. I'm no.
Really?
I'm a no, but I think we used it to our advantage. Don't shame me, Keith.
I'm a no too. So thank you for going first with the bravery.
I thought you were on the team. I just thought you were on team Building 7. I think I believe a conspiracy, and I think it's one of these things where there's enough things to make me scratch my head and say that maybe we did it, and that makes me really sad to think that something so horrific could be something that we would not only plan it but do it, and then just how do you live with yourself? I don't know. The people who did know about it, who I would just come out and say, I think probably Cheney knew about it, Rumsfeld knew about it, So I can.
Okay, well, okay, I'll go on record and say we possibly knew about it. I'm not, but I'm saying we didn't orchestrate it.
Okay, there you go. That's close enough.
Derek.
Okay, Derek.
I'm with Keith.
All right,
Katie.
So now Katie. Yeah, Katie. No, Katie's with me.
I'm a no. I'm scratching my head. I'm curious, but can't quite get all the way there.
You need to spend a few 100 hours on YouTube going down those rabbit holes, and you will be convinced.
You need to listen to some more QAnon. That's what you need, Katie.
Don't be a sheeple.
Simpsons thing, okay? I did my homework. I see what this says. I saw what the Simpsons had to report.
Okay,
that's about
now can we get the drum roll now? Katie, do you have the totals?
I do. The person who is most likely to believe in conspiracy theories among our group is Keith.
I knew it.
Oh,
I knew it.
Keith has 3 yeses: Sasquatch, JFK, 9/11, and 2 maybes: moon landing faked and alien government conspiracy-ish.
Maybe.
What was that?
Yeah, just maybe.
Yeah, maybe on that. So I'm giving us kind of a half point for maybe. So for you, that brings you a total of 4.
All right.
The person least likely to believe in conspiracy theories,
Katie.
is Matt and Katie. Actually, we're tied.
We're tied for the biggest sheeple.
We are. So we are both maybes on the Sasquatch. From what I heard, we were like, but like the
Yeah, I know.
39
I'm a
to
no.
51.
Yeah, I mean it's possible, but I'm a no.
You were a maybe to no. All right. Okay. So then you're least likely. Then you were least likely. Your only yes was JFK.
So that means I'm the only sheeple in the bunch.
Well,
you're in the middle. You're
in the middle. You're moderate. You're moderate because you had 2 yeses and they were both today. Up until today, Derek, I would have said you were the least conspiracy theory minded among us.
I pulled ahead today.
You pulled ahead today. So we're at Keith with 4, Matt with 1, me with 1.5, and Derek with 2.
Damn.
Sweet. I win. I
win. Derek's gonna have to go back and he's gonna have to believe in the lizard lords of the Illuminati to get some bonus points.
The lizard people. We didn't talk about the lizard people.
They're part of the
lizard
Illuminati.
lords of the Illuminati.
Oh,
that sounds like a rock band.
I just have one more thing to say about Illuminati. Beyonce.
Oh, that's what we're gonna get into.
Yeah.
Well,
Queen Bee. All right, y'all. Let's wrap this up. But before we do, just a reminder that we have a website, heretichappyhour.com. And on that website, in addition to the store, in addition to the merch, in addition to the episodes that you can follow, we have a new bookstore. I mentioned it in the top. I'm going to mention it now. Head on over to the bookstore. Get all the books from the former Heretics of the Week and other books that we've referenced. Save yourself some money and help out your favorite motherfucking podcast.
We'd also love to see you in our Facebook groups. Join Heresy After Hours is for everyone. We have over 2,000 heretics asking really fun questions. We had a robust discussion just yesterday on Gnostics and the Gospel of John and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. So please be part of these conversations. Yes. Dropping knowledge all over the place and also sharing hysterical memes. And we also have an exclusive group just for members of our Patreon group. So all of our patrons get special access with a small, intimate group where we ask deep questions and talk and figure out what this deconstruction process is all about.
That is right. And speaking of Patreon, listen, guys, this Patreon thing is really cool. For as little as $2 a month, you get bonus content. We have added new tiers now at like $10 a month. You'll also get PDFs of our books. $25 a month. We're recording weekly video. Like each of us will take a turn each week and record specific content on video for you guys. And then go check it out. So it's really cool. You get bonus interviews, bonus podcast footage, and now you get bonus video stuff. It's super cool. And you can find us at patreon.com/heretic happy hour. Help us support the podcast, help us keep doing what we're doing, and get a bunch of cool stuff at the same time.
And we need you, like Uncle Sam. We want you to listen to the Heretic Happy Hour podcast. We want you to listen, like it, and rate it 5 stars on iTunes. And you can get the Heretic Happy Hour wherever podcasts are available.
And I will just say, a lot of people are doing that, Derek. So you're getting through to them. I've noticed we're getting a lot of ratings and reviews, and I think most of them are pretty good.
It's the Mr. T approach.